We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you.
Hi, welcome along to NUFC Matters. It is another supporters group show where we introduce to you somebody from around the world who is involved with a supporters group supporting our wonderful club, Newcastle United. And it's a big welcome to Simon, who is in San Diego. Hi, Simon.
Morning, how are you?
Very good, mate. Great to see you. And thanks for coming on the show. First of all, how did you end up in San Diego?
Work brought me over here. I was living in DC. I work for the government, and they said your next job's in San Diego. So I've been here about 15 years now, I think.
Wow, fantastic. And originally from the Northeast?
Yeah, born in Jesmond. Grew up till I was about 14, and then I left. I've been back once after university, and then it was like, you know, you hit a wall, and it's like, what's the next opportunity? And as I have a passport for over here, it was like, well, let's go back and see if I can get into anything over there. And my extended break over here became permanent, and now I've got a wife and kids, and I don't think I'm coming back, although I did just book flights to bring me and the kids back, because my oldest, my boy, is he's going to be 11 this weekend, I think it is. And I'm trying to get him, his spring break is when we play West Ham at home and Everton, that I think it's Easter week. So bringing him back, trying to get some tickets. I've got a lead on a couple of tickets from friends and family. So try to get him to his first games, get the hook in. You know, it's already pretty sad. He pretty much just wears a uniform of any tune top he has. But, you know, try and sink those teeth in, you know, right now, because I was about his age when I went to my first game. I think maybe I was 9. Keegan's testimonial was my first game. So that was all right.
Incredible. My first game as well. The helicopter taking KK off the pitch, 2-2, Liverpool, of course. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that. Well, let's talk about that, because we share something of interest. What was your mind? You know, what can you remember of that day? And you know, did you just expect every match to be like that at St. James's Park, like I did?
It's weird because, like, I wasn't allowed to go. I think I would have been 9. I don't think I turned 10 quite yet, just because when the game was played. And my mom wouldn't let me go to games, you know, just because of all the stuff that was going on at the time. We didn't really know anybody else that went, so it's not like I could tag along with anybody. But that game, it was me and my dad and my grandfather, his dad. So it was the 3 generations of us, and it was just walking up the stadium and all the people. It was just like the best feeling ever. And then we were in the old, would be the West End where the Millburn is now. And farther to the north side of it. And I just remember the pie at halftime, the smell of Bovril, just the different smells, the crush. I think I got plonked onto one of the barriers, so I didn't get pushed around too much. And then I remember looking up and seeing the helicopter, thinking, you know, what's that all about? And then it lands and off he goes, you know, and you can remember the wave and all that. And yeah, it was a pretty special night. And I didn't get back to a game after that until I think it was I was back from college in 93, 92, 93, Christmas FA Cup game, sometime around there, like a January, end of December, January game. And I think we beat somebody like 4-1 under Keegan when we were beginning to fly. And that was it. I didn't actually want to go back. I'm like, I want to stay and just keep going to games, you know. Obviously couldn't. But yeah, that was my second game.
Fantastic, great stuff, great memories. So you end up in San Diego. I mean, you know, I guess trying to find places to watch games must have been difficult at first, was it?
Well, there's a pub. I mean, Google, you know, at least the internet had like spread a little bit by that point. So there's actually a pub here in San Diego called Shakespeare's Pub, and it's been here since 1990, and it shows a lot of games. But when I first got here, the way the TV coverage did it, they would sometimes stagger the game. So they'd show games back to back. But obviously, if you had the internet on your phone, you could see what the scores are. You would already know, you know, you could almost already know the game. And unfortunately, at that time, Shakespeare's was Man United used to go there. They go somewhere else, and they've got a big contingent of fans. Obviously, I mean, they're a global brand, right? We talked just before. Chelsea also go there, and at the time, you know, they'd had the Mourinho effect and all that money pumped into them, so they were pretty big as well. You know, we got a large community of people from outside of San Diego here. So sometimes I'd go, and it would be like the Man United game would be on, then to Chelsea, and I'd have to come back like a couple hours later so they could slot it in, you know, which was pretty tough. But there was that bar. The problem we had was Mike Ashley, I think, and you know, just we were that poor. Who's coming out to watch? You know, you'd get the odd person or odd tourists that would find the bar, but there was never any consistency of people coming out to watch the games. You know, that's the uptick in that is more being recently.
So obviously you meet at a particular bar nowadays, don't you?
Yeah. Right now we meet at Bluefoot Bar, and they've been top notch with us. The bartender, the lead bar manager is actually a really big Spurs fan. It's funny because Spurs don't actually drink there. It was originally an Arsenal bar. So on any given morning when Arsenal are in, he's serving 50, 60, 70 Arsenal fans, you know. So he quite rightly gets some ribbon from that. But it's a bar, it's a neutral venue. So you get Aston Villa, Leicester City are in there. The Leicester fans, who sometimes have more people in than us, which is Mike Ashley, you know. They bring a laptop and they connect a Wi-Fi cable and a HDMI cable to one of the TVs to stream their games because they can't always regularly get their games. But they come in, Wolves are in there. It's the Man City bar, like I said, the Arsenal bar, Bayern Munich drink in there. There's one fella from Cadiz. He comes in to watch La Liga and he hangs his flag in the corner. He always gets a TV. So they've been very, very good to us. It might not stay our bar for the, you know, constantly. It has some limitations, like it doesn't do food. So, you know, and it doesn't let kids in. And we've had tourists come into town and they're like, hey, can we come? Can we bring the kid? I'm like, sorry, you know, they hit me up on Twitter and it's like, sorry, they don't let kids in. So even my little boy, you know, he can't come to the game. So sometimes we do family days where we go somewhere like Shakespeare's. But for the most part, Bluefoot's the place we go. We fight for a TV on occasion because it can get a lot of people in there. I know Mitch has said on shows previously, we get every game on TV here. So, you know, I get lost when I think about coming back and it's like the game's not on TV because for a decade and a half, I've had every game on TV live, you know, and it's $5 a month.
Wow.
And I play a little bit more for the TV because sometimes NBC hold the rights. So they put one game on NBC. So if you wanted to be guaranteed every game, you would have to have, you know, Hulu or YouTube or what, you know, one of the dish networks. But $5 a month to stream gets you 85% of the games.
Incredible. It looks like you've got a good membership then. It looks like a lot of people who get along to the bar.
Yeah, which one's that? So that was the first game after the takeover. Yeah. And we'd collected some fans along the way. For the longest time since I got here, it was me and like 4 of the lads on a rotating basis. And then along the way, we had a couple of fellas turn up. Graham, who's from Newcastle, Rich, who's standing right behind me in that picture, showed up. He's from Cresswell. And then the lad standing on the screen to the left of me, to my right, Shade, he showed up. They all showed up during COVID, so we couldn't get together. So the season 21-22, just before the takeover, was the first time we could ever get together. And it was odd that just a few people came together that same summer. And so we went from being like 3 or 4 of us at any given time and like really fighting to get together and find a place to show the game. So all of a sudden there was like 8 of us or 9 of us or 10 of us. And then we collected a few guys along the way, and they started seeing people with the strips. And then that's the cup final. We had 30 people. Few people that showed up who live in town that have never been before, haven't been back. And then a few people who were actually in town on business, conferences and whatnot. Like the guys on the if you're looking at it on the left of the picture, they were in town for conferences, you know. And then San Diego is a bit of a transient town, so a couple of fellas have left and went to live in like Colorado for work, different stuff. Actually, 2 of our members are in Denver now. They ended up leaving both the same summer, and they happen to be in Denver. So Denver has a pretty big fan group as well, Toonami Denver. And so they go watch the games with them now, I believe.
Great stuff. I mean, obviously Newcastle toured part of the US last season as part of the pre-season. I mean, did you get to any games? And if not, you know, I guess disappointed if you didn't. But you know, was it good to see them coming to the US?
You know what it is? I've been back since I've been in San Diego. And then when I lived in DC, I've only been back about 3 times recently, and there's been like 7-year gaps between. And I waited to book flights, and then I had to pull the trigger because for me and 9 of the 4 of us to get back, my wife and 3 kids to get back, it was like $9,000. And I'm like, I'm waiting. And finally, I'm like, I got to pull the trigger. Like 4 days later, Newcastle, we're coming to the US. 2 weeks I was in England. So my boy was annoyed. And then we left on the Wednesday, and they played that tournament on the Saturday and the Sunday. Yeah. And I couldn't extend the tickets to come back. So he was pretty furious that we missed them. But in 2015, when they came, me and one of the lads from here, because like I say, there was only ever 4 of us sometimes watching a game. Sometimes it was only 2 of us. We went up to Portland to watch them. So we met some people up there. But yeah, it was fantastic. But a couple of our members, Shade, he was out there on he went out to the East Coast. They did all 3 games. They ended up driving from New Jersey to Atlanta like 14 hours straight through the night because the club, I think they announced that pre thing, the fans could meet on a get into the training session. So they ditched their flights they'd paid for and hired a car and drove through the night to make it. Eddie and Shade, and then they picked up somebody else along the way. But yeah, a couple of our lads were out there. And then I think Big Joe, who's now out in Pennsylvania, but he'd been out here working. Big Joe, I think he met them out there as well, but he's now in Pennsylvania starting to build a bit of a group as well. He's got a bit of a social media presence.
Oh, fantastic. Great stuff. Well, typical of your luck, unfortunately for you. But I mean, the club are looking to build up the relations, I think, with supporters groups. It certainly appears to be, the case. They are trying to be more transparent with fans, which is something that we all wanted during the Ashley era, but was sadly lacking. Have you reached out to the club? Have they reached out to you as yet?
I've been on a couple of club calls because they're trying to do the international thing. We have, all the Twitter handles, like Toonami Chicago, there's Toonami Toronto, Toonami America is an overarching one, NYC and stuff. We have some WhatsApp groups and stuff. So, if there's a call or whatnot, people send the links and we get on some of the calls, and they've been good about a few things. I remember, a couple of our members have been on them. It's not been, I wouldn't say it's been as good. And then, you know, they said one thing. It's like, you're not thinking about this, are you? Because they were like, well, we're going to do the international ballot. That's awesome. But the international ballot comes out like 10 days before the game. How am I supposed to get flights from San Diego back to Newcastle at that short a notice without paying, you know, a ridiculous amount of money, or you're going around the world? So they're going to have to think about that in different ways, and maybe open up a little bit more and have more consistent communication. But in terms of like interaction, even just say Twitter and internet, when you reach out to them, there's no response from that account. You know, it never does anything. They could definitely do some ways of helping groups grow. They don't even have there's a group in these list of cities, you know. It's you got to go on. I think NUFC.com has a document where you can see, like, go to this city, I think they're in this bar, and I think the Toon Army America Facebook page has that, but like even the club doesn't have it, you know. So they could do with a little bit better in the engagement of fans. I know they're talking about everything's illegal or whatnot. You know, they're trying to figure out the memberships and how to incorporate that, but it's slow going and kind of not as open as to what they're doing as they could be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a painstaking task. I know we mentioned when we're off air, you know, that when I was fans liaison officer, I put together a document for the club, which nothing was ever done with, and it was probably, you know, put into a recycle bin on the internet, and you know, that was the end of that. But you know, ultimately, if they'd just been ahead of the game on this, then it wouldn't have been such a painstaking exercise. But there will literally be thousands of supporters clubs around the world, not to mention hundreds in America, which you know, the club should recognise that it's difficult. How do they do it? You know, what do you do for those people? You know, it's $1 million question, but I think they need to start communicating more. They've set up the fan advisory board. Obviously, we've discussed it quite heavily on our shows over the course of the last week. Mitch, of course, put himself forward. Just speaking to you briefly, Simon, I know very little about you, but from what I've heard already, I think, you know, you could have been somebody who could have put yourself forward for the position equally, you know, having been a Newcastle fan from the area, moved abroad. They've gone for a slightly different option with regards to an international representative. They've gone for somebody who hasn't really got a connection with the club or with the city short term. I find that a bit strange.
I did too. I remember where I was when I saw it, because I was at work, and then obviously my phone blew up a little bit and I looked at it, because one of our guys, he did put himself forward for the group. I don't particularly have the time for it necessarily, but he doesn't have kids and everything else, and he put himself forward. And then I saw who it was, and I watched. I think I watched up like Mitch or somebody else who's not from here, and it was like, am I reading that right? Like, fan for 2 years, and, you know, and could be super qualified, you know, highly educated, good communicator, or, you know, good organizer of things, into fine details. That would have been great. But it just strikes me as being odd that, like, somebody that hasn't put on events, hasn't basically ran a fan group, you know, hasn't been abroad. Not saying you have to be from Newcastle and abroad as a fan, as part of a fan group. I think it would massively benefit, because you've seen both sides of it. I know Mitch has said in the past things like he hasn't realized until he's more removed now, and then you see things from a slightly different perspective once you're not in the goldfish bowl of Newcastle necessarily, that, you know, you see the club as a different way, but it helps being a supporter. Don't necessarily have to be English to do it. You know, I know plenty of diehard American fans. I just found I've been a fan since the takeover. Just, that's never going to rub people well, right? I mean, so you're here for the good times. What about the 15 years of Mike Ashley we dealt with when nobody was showing up? And, you know, there was one time I put out, you know, your friend Warren Barton is in town, right? He's an honorary member. He's got the T-shirt, right?
Yeah.
He regularly retweets our stuff. Unlike the club, he puts stuff out. I've seen Steve Howie do it. I've seen Shea Given do it. There was one day we were like, hey, we're meeting up. We're at this pub this time. It's this game, whatever the match was. And between Warren Barton and Denver Bar, because Denver Bar owned a lower tier professional team here in San Diego, right? So between Warren Barton and Denver Bar, that tweet about, well, you know, this is the time, this is the date, this is where we're watching, got like 45,000 views, which us was big at the time, or still is really. Not one person showed up extra. It was the three lads we probably would have had there anyway, and no new people showed up, even though it had that much visibility, because we were in the middle of Mike Ashley. It was probably 2016. You know, we were in 2015-16 was the relegation battle. You know, it was hard watching. It's like, and we used to watch at a bar that's on the coast, which is probably 15 miles from my house. So I got to get in the car, 25-minute drive down to the coast, find parking, go into the bar. You know, you're paying for food, you're paying for a few beers, and then you're watching just that crap. Even though, you know, Rafa was a godsend, it would have been Steve McLaren at the time, and it was just, it was woeful. It was hard work, you know.
Looking at this season, Newcastle United, of course, last season Champions League qualification, got to a Carabao Cup final. You had 30 people there watching it. This season, we knew it was going to be more difficult with the Champions League campaign, especially being in the group of death. But overall, how would you assess the season? You know, going into the closing of the transfer window. You know, still a few months left. Still in the FA Cup. Still hope.
Yeah, I mean, we massively overachieved last season, right? And got super lucky with injuries. I mean, Isak was out, but we had Wilson. Wilson was out, we had Isak back. They just seemed to flip-flop. But we didn't have the injuries we've had this year. If you average it out, we probably should have had some of the injuries we had this year, last year. You know, it would have been a wash. We probably should never have been fourth. You know, we probably 8th, 7th, 8th. And to be honest, that's probably where we should finish this season, just because of, and I think we'll do it. I don't think at this point, I saw something about, I just saw a tweet before we came on that I think Almiron's just said, no, we're not going to Al-Shabaab or what have you. So I don't think at that point we'll bring anybody in. I don't think there's that much extra money. I think they'd rather keep it till the summer. You know, we're definitely dancing that FSP or whatever it's called. They've changed the acronym to now. But if people are coming back, I think, is Harvey Barnes the next one to be on the grass, I think. And it seems like every week after that, we should get somebody back. If we have those front-facing players back, I think we can overtake like Man United. I think 6th might be a stretch, but I think 7th is completely achievable. And I think after all the exertion at the beginning of the season, playing 3 games and not having any rest, just doing recovery, and then getting these guys back for the back half of the season, I think we do 7th. I think Premier League's gone. Champions League is gone at this point. I don't think we get back into those places. But I think 7th would be a fair shout after what we've went through.
Yeah, news coming out this week as well that Nick Pope is on course to return slightly earlier, middle of March. That's the prediction. So I agree with you. I think the injured players coming back will play that part. And you know, I still think, you know, we've done well. We've kept ourselves within touching distance of those European places. We've got a lot of teams below us to play. And, you know, I still think we've got a good opportunity to you know, certainly to get into European slot, maybe not Champions League, but the FA Cup as well keeps our season alive. You know, we still want to win a trophy, and, you know, the FA Cup, the draw's been slightly kinder, you know, by the time this goes out on Saturday, it'll be, you know, Blackburn or Wrexham who Newcastle will be taking on. And that's a winnable game, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. I mean, obviously, I saw a tweet earlier that I'd rather go to Blackburn because Wrexham's that banana skin that Newcastle always seems to slip in. It's got, you know, the list of all the teams going way back when, you know. But then again, you've got the Wrexham, the fairy tale. They're on TV over here. That TV show with Ryan Reynolds. So any exposure is sort of good exposure, you know. I mean, Newcastle coming in the summer was a brilliant thing. Gutted I missed it, but it can't be overstated how good that would have been for us. But any cup final, if we can get to another cup final, it just shows that progression, more people being interested, more, you know, what is this team all about? It's like, no, you know, any publicity is good publicity is the sort of phrase at the end of the day. If we can get to another cup final, fingers crossed for this one. I don't know how many more we can keep going to and not winning it. But yeah, if we got the cup final and even sixth, I'd consider this season pretty much from what we've had to deal with, the success, and then we build and go again next season.
Yeah, I would agree. Great to chat to you today. Where can people contact you? Where can people find you?
So, I mean, my Twitter is the bottom of the page. Simon in San Diego, or Simon in SD, I think it is. I had to shorten it. We are San Diego Mags. Is our Twitter profile. We have quite a few followers. If you're coming, you need to know, is the game on? We get a lot of people showing up on Twitter and coming to see us. And then I think SD Mags on Instagram, and then San Diego Mags on Facebook. I don't run the Facebook really. We try to keep up on that. Twitter seems to be where we get most of our contact from.
At San Diego Mags, there's the Twitter. Give that a follow, and I'm sure Simon can pick you up from there. We've got Luton at the weekend. That's the game I want a prediction from for you, because this game goes out. This particular show goes out on Saturday morning. So Luton Town at home.
2-0. We got to beat them this time. That was an awful game down there. We'd hit the wall. I think they were all gassed, but I think after being a little bit refreshed, having some time off, having some time with Eddie, getting a couple of people back, I think 2-0 doable. I don't think they're great away from home, so I'll go 2-0.
Great stuff, mate. Been a pleasure having you on. Pass on my best to all the lads and lasses in San Diego. Enjoy the game, and I'll play out with the ads. Thanks very much, Simon.
No bother.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract, free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102. Go to the website mrvickys.co.uk or drop them an email, info@mrvickys.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the Northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9 at thetune.uk.com.